Hello everybody and welcome back to our modelled writing videos. So today we are looking at task 1 of the writing part of the IELTS. So task 1 is where you'll have a set of data, maybe a bar chart, maybe a line graph, maybe more than one, multiple charts, maybe a table. And it's your job to report back on the data that you're seeing, and you'll have 20 minutes, and we want to write a minimum of 150 words for task 1. So today then, we are going to look at two different tasks, and I'll be taking us through the planning stage and then also the write-up, so you can really see how we approach these types of questions. And along the way, of course, there'll be hints and tips on what to do to get those top band scores. Okay, so with that in mind, then let's get started. And our first one of the day is going to be a bar chart. Now, bar charts are quite common, I would say, probably the most common type of chart to come up. They could be on their own, they could be with other charts, so really one to be comfortable with. In this case, we've just got one on its own because there's no plural here, so one bar chart today. Okay, so today the question is with the data itself, so we'll look at it all in one go. The chart below shows Portuguese people's favourite season divided into 3 different age groups. Summarise the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So we have the same task every time. We are selecting and reporting main features, and we are also making comparisons where relevant. So not every time, but just when they are particularly striking. Okay then, so let's have a look at the data itself. We're looking at Portuguese people's favourite season, and we've got the different seasons, a key here: spring, summer, autumn, winter. And it's broken up into age groups. So we've got under 15 years old, 15 to 64, and then 65 and older. And here on the y-axis, we've got the percent. Okay, so quite a nice, straightforward piece of data here. Today, we can have a look at this and have a think about the plan. So the planning stage is really important. We want to categorize the data that we're seeing into 2 different groups. Now, it's up to you how you group this. There's different ways, of course, that you can do it. My advice would be make it as simple as possible for yourself. So the groups could go, maybe you see different age groups that follow perhaps a similar pattern. For example, 15 to 64 and 65 and over, and then under 15. You could do the percentages, maybe, I don't know, under 20 and then over 20. Or you could look at the seasons themselves. I quite like it when groups have an equal number. So for example, it's quite nice to talk about 2 seasons in one and then maybe 2 in the other. So I think that's what I'll go for today. But of course, we've done it before where we've grouped, maybe there's 2 in one group and then 1 in the other. So it's really up to you how you want to structure this. But to keep it simple, I'm going to go for the seasons. And let's go for spring and summer in one because they are definitely the highest in all age categories. So we'll do spring and summer. And then, of course, we'll do the other 2, autumn and winter. Okay, so our overview then, this is our sweeping statement that we want to make about the data in general. So we are not using specific figures, we're just making a general statement. So something like overall, summer was the most enjoyed season by all all age, maybe groups here, all age groups. Okay then, so we've analysed the data, we've grouped, and we've thought about our overview. So now I think we can go to our write-up. And to help us today with our write-up, we've got some really nice words, synonyms for words like increase, decrease, stay the same, and we can combine these with adverbs to talk about the trends that we're seeing. So you won't have this in the exam, but this is really nice to help us today. Okay, so what's the first thing we need to do? Well, we need to paraphrase this sentence here. So the chart below, we can be more specific. The bar chart displayed shows, maybe provides information regarding Portuguese peoples. Now, if you're struggling to paraphrase something like Portuguese peoples because that's quite specific, we can just shuffle the words around, maybe change the word form. That's a good way to approach paraphrasing as well. So regarding maybe Portuguese people, we could say Portuguese residents or people in Portugal. People in Portugal. Regarding the people in Portugal and their favourite season and their most enjoyed time of the year, divided into 3 age groups. Let's do a nice period there actually to break it up, otherwise it's a bit wordy. It is split into 3 categories based on age. Okay, let's read this back. The bar chart displayed provides information regarding the people in Portugal and their most enjoyed time of year. It is split into 3 categories based on age. Okay, so don't be afraid to do a period, break up the sentence if you want to. That's okay. Lovely. So we've stated our paraphrased introduction here. So now we want to go into our overview in a new paragraph. And I like a nice phrase to open this, like in general, on the whole. Maybe we could do at first glance. At first glance. And summer, we want to talk about how summer is the most popular season. Summer is the most popular season for all age categories. And then followed by spring. We can add that on as well. So if there's an extra piece of information that you want to add, maybe something that follows this trend or something that doesn't, maybe the opposite trend, that's okay as well. At first glance, summer is the most popular season for all age categories, followed by spring. Okay, so we're not using any data yet. We're just making a sweeping generalization. Okay, so now we've already stated it, so let's dive into our spring and summer paragraph, and we'll use lots of data from the bar charts here. Okay, so we'll do a nice opening sentence like summer is enjoyed by all ages, or is the favorite for all, and maybe for everyone. And spring well, actually, we could group these together. They're always over 30%. So we could say followed by spring. Summer is the favorite for everyone, and this is followed by spring. They are consistently over 30%. They consistently total 30%. This is just on the line. And over maybe. And over for across the groups. So we've grouped them together. Summer is the favourite for everyone, and this is followed by spring. They consistently total 30% and over across the groups. So we're just grouping them together nicely, comparing them. Okay, let's pull some information out. So under 15-year-olds, that's the striking piece of information here. So strikingly, under 15-year-olds contained the most votes for summer. 45%. We've got increments of 10 here, so 45%. And this is actually the highest for any in the study in total. The highest percentage in the entire study. Okay, it looks as if 15 to 65 and 65 years and older have a very similar figure here. So 15 to 64 years and 65 years and over have a remarkably similar figure. Approximately 36, maybe 37, 36. Between 36% and 37. There we go. Okay, so we've talked about summer. Now let's just mention spring, and we can see how they fall between I'd say 2% range. So notably, all groups voted, all groups fell between a 2% range for spring, the highest being 15 to 64, the largest number being 15 to 64 years being in the group at 32%. Okay, so we have talked about spring and summer. Let's just read this back and see how it's sounding. Summer is the favourite for everyone, and this is followed by spring. They consistently total 30% and over across the groups. Strikingly, under 15-year-olds contained the most votes for summer, 45%, the highest percentage in the entire study. 15 to 64 years and 65 years and over have a remarkably similar figure, between 36 and 37%. Notably, all groups fell between a 2% range for spring, the largest number being in the 15 to 64 years group at 32%. Okay, I think that's good. We've tackled the big spring and summer with the highest percentages now. So let's look at autumn and winter. And we could do a nice comparison here and talk about how they are always under 30%. So let's say in contrast, autumn and winter remained or remain under we want to check the tense actually. So we don't have a year, so we're talking the present tense. Okay. In contrast, autumn and winter remain under 30% across all ages. Okay, so we've contrasted the two groups. Let's talk about how they are the same figure for under 15. Significantly, they stand at the same amount of the same figure number amount for under 15 years old, and you're about, I'd say maybe 12% here. 12%. Okay, then what's going on for the rest of the ages? We've got autumn for the other two groups is the favourite over winter, especially for 65 years and older. Autumn for the other groups is more popular, particularly for 65 years and older at maybe 26%. Okay, so we've just touched on that. Now we can touch upon winter being the lowest. Winter is the least voted for season is winter. Maybe we could say the least voted for season in 15 to 64 years and 65 years and older is winter. And let's do a respective, so we could say it's roughly the same, about 12%, and then about 7%. 12% and 7%, say respectively. Okay, a bit of a smaller paragraph here, but that's okay. We'll read it back and see how it's sounding. In contrast, autumn and winter remain under 30% across all ages. Significantly, they stand at the same amount for under 15 years old, 12%. Autumn for the other groups is more popular, particularly for 65 years and older at 26%. The least voted for season in 15 to 64 years and 65 years and older is winter, 12% and 7% respectively. Okay then, so I think that's good. We'll check the words and see how we're doing. Okay, so this comes to a total of 180 words. So over the 150 minimum, which is important. And yep, just a bit over there. We've made sure that we've not repeated ourselves too much. We've made sure that we've followed the structure, grouped effectively, found interesting ways to report back on the data. I think this is good. Okay, so with that being said, let's go to our next task of the day. Oh, when we're looking at multiple charts. Okay, so this can cause some worry for students. It's difficult to balance these different charts sometimes, and it can be difficult to see how we group them and interweave them together. So we'll look at this today, and hopefully this will shed some light on multiple charts for you. Okay, the question. The percentage of persons arrested in the 5 years ending 1994 and the most reasons for arrest. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So we're always having the same task here. And we're looking at the percentage of persons arrested and the most recent reasons for arrest. Okay, let's bring in the data and see what we're going to tackle. Right, okay. So, persons arrested in 5 years. Right, we have, so it's split up into males and females. And we've got 9% of females are arrested and 32% of males were arrested in the 5 years. Okay. Right, so we've got pie charts, and then down here we've got this horizontal bar chart to talk about the reasons for most recent arrests. So we've got things like drink driving, breach of order, public drinking, that's a high one. Lots of different ones here on the y-axis, and then on the x-axis we've got percentage. So how many of the total arrests were for drink driving, for example. And then this is also split up into males and females. So we can start to think of groupings. Now, the pie charts don't say a great deal. There's not a lot that we can draw from them, apart from obviously how many females and males were arrested. So I think we can interweave this information into the groups for basically the bar chart. And the most simple way to do this, from what I would do, is do males and females. So group 1, males, group 2, females. Okay, so the overview then, let's have a look. We want to pick on a striking piece of information, the fact that the amount of men arrested is higher than women. However, they were both quite highly arrested for public drinking. So maybe we could state that. More men arrested than women. These are just our notes, so we can make full sentences later. More men arrested than women. However, both sexes had highest percentage arrested for public drinking. Okay, so that's what we're going to think about today. So we've got our 2 groups, and then we've got our overview there. All right. With that being said, then let's go to the write-up, and we've got our question, we've got some helpful words, and we've got the data itself, the most important part really, to draw some figures from when we get to our groupings. But first, as always, we need to paraphrase, and we need to paraphrase this sentence here. The percentage of persons arrested in the 5 years ending 1994 and the most recent reasons for arrest. Right, so the questions a little bit of a, it's not too expansive, so we can elaborate a bit on this. Let's talk about the two pie charts first. So we could say, while the two pie charts depicts, that's a good word, say show, depicts the number of individuals arrested, maybe apprehended, that's a good alternative word, in the 5-year period, which maybe concludes instead of ends, concludes in 1994. So we've got the total number of people arrested. Now what does the bar chart do? The bar charts illustrates the crimes committed. We could say something like to justify the most recent detentions or time in prison. To justify the most recent, maybe detentions. Okay, and then we could just mention that they're all shown in percentages. These figures are all expressed in percentages. Okay, so we've got quite a long introduction here, but that's okay. Each question will be different. Let's have a read back and see how we're doing. While the two pie charts depict the number of individuals apprehended in the 5-year period, which concludes, we're using past tense for this one, concludes in 1994, the bar chart illustrates the crimes committed to justify the most recent detentions. These figures are all expressed in percentages. Okay, brilliant. So the question here was a little bit vague, so we elaborated and we're stating what we're seeing, and we've paraphrased, which I think is good. Okay, so our overview then. Let's start with maybe a phrase like overall, or in summary, or at a glance. We've used that one. In general as well. It can be maybe noted, and we were talking about that men commit more crimes in general than women. However, they both scored highly for public drinking, had the highest percentage. It can be noted that maybe in the above mentioned period, or the above mentioned time frame, the maybe quantity instead of number, quantity of men who were convicted or who were committing crimes was significantly higher than women. Let's talk about how now we can talk about the public drinking. So, however, maybe strikingly, both sexes were most charged for the offence of public drinking. So we're not using figures here, we are just stating what we are seeing. Let's read it back and see how it sounds. Overall, it can be noted that in the above mentioned time frame, the quantity of men who were convicted was significantly higher than, just double checking, really important, as you can see, than women. However, strikingly, both sexes were most charged for the offence of public drinking. Okay, so quite long paraphrasing and overview there. So I'm showing you that, each question is going to be different naturally. Not everything is going to be the same. So here we go. Well, let's dive into our first group, which is going to talk about males. And let's start with the pie chart piece of information, and then we can go into the bar chart because there's more to talk about here. But we'll mention this nevertheless. So males, males account, maybe we could say, over the 5 years, 32% of males were arrested or were maybe handled by the police, or maybe were handcuffed by the police. 32% of males were handcuffed by the police. Okay, so now we can go into some detail from the bar charts, and we've talked about public drinking being quite high for males. So the males are in this darker line here. So let's just mention that they are public drinking is the most common offence. So public drinking amongst men was the or maybe accounted for the biggest number of arrests at, we've got increments of 5, maybe just over 30%. Just over 30% there. Okay. Now what's that followed by? We have drink driving. Well, actually, after drink driving, the rest are under 20%. So after drink driving, we can use that. After drink driving, let's do a nice bracket. 20, maybe 26. After drink driving, 26%. The other reasons were less than 20% each of total charges. Any that jump out, we have we could talk about maybe breach of order, assault and theft being in a similar range of, so if we got 15, 16, 17, maybe 17 and a half, 16, maybe a 2%. So we could say breach of order, assault, and theft all have similar figures within 2% of each other. And we could, we could state them in order then. So breach of order, we have 15, 16, maybe 17, 16, 17 and a half, or maybe 18, around 17 and a half, maybe 18%. Then we have assault, we could say 15, around just over 16. And theft is 16, respectively. Okay, let's see how this is sounding, this paragraph. Over the 5 years, 32% of males were handcuffed by the police. Public drinking amongst men accounted for the biggest number of arrests at just over 10%. Sorry, not 10%, 30%. After drink driving, 26%. The other reasons were less than 20% each of total charges. Maybe of the total. Breach of order, assault, and theft all have maybe had past tense similar figures within 2% of each other, around 18%, just over 16%, and 16% respectively. Okay, I think that's good. We've not talked about everything here, but we've grouped together the most important parts. So now we can go and get started on our females group, and we want to directly contrast this with the males. So we could do a nice reporting of this actually, and say that instead of how many were arrested, we could say 91% weren't arrested, and then we could do the difference between males. So on the other hand, 91% of females were not arrested. Let's do some math. 68, so we have 70, 23 23% more than males. Direct comparison there. Okay, so let's dive into some detail about the females then. So we have the stripes. Public drinking, we could talk about how that's significantly similarly with men, women, public drinking was dramatically higher than any other reason at 35, 36, 37 and a half, 37.5%. Okay, that's the first one. Now let's think about some other reasons that we can pull. So assault was quite high. This was followed by assault. Have I used that phrase before? Followed by assault. Let's use another nice bracket here. 50, maybe 19%. Assault and public drinking are the only two, and no answer. So we could say along with no answer, 5, 6, 7%. These categories or these reasons were where women scored higher than men. Okay, so no answer, assault, and public drinking. We could maybe mention a line about something else, how there's a big difference in maybe drink driving. Additionally, or maybe the reason with the biggest drop in figures compared, or the biggest difference in figures was drink driving. women's total or number was 14. Okay, let's read this one back and see how we're doing. On the other hand, 91% of females were not arrested, 23% more than males. Similarly, with men, public drinking was dramatically higher than any other reason at 37.5%. This was followed by assault, 19%, along with no answer, 7%. We can do a nice maybe semicolon. These reasons were where women scored higher than men. These reasons women scored higher than men. I can say, in fact. The reason with the biggest difference in figures, maybe in between the sexes, was drink driving. Women's number was 14%. Was lower, was we strikingly, have we used significantly maybe? Okay, let's read. Have we had a read of this back? So we're just double checking everything, making sure our word choices are okay here. This is a slightly longer essay, but that's okay. You can see how we've structured it and how we've approached it. So let's count the words for this one. All right, so that leaves us with 209 words for this answer. So a little bit over the 150 minimum there, but at least you can see how we've approached this question and how we, instead of breaking it up into pie charts and bar charts, because in fact there's not a great deal to talk about with pie charts, so we can weave them into the groups for the bar charts basically. So that's what we've looked at today. I hope that's been helpful, and I hope that multiple charts aren't as daunting as perhaps they were before. We always approach it in the same structure, in the same way here. So I hope today's been helpful, and do let us know if you've got any questions or comments. We'd love to hear from you all, and we'll see you in the next video.